Work I was primarily focused on was really our media messaging and changing the public debate and working to ensure that the media was talking about Oscar like he was a human being and not a criminal, and ensuring that the word got out past Oakland, because one of the things that struck me is I actually wasn't in Oakland when Oscar was murdered. I was in Las Vegas visiting my family, and I was driving back, and I was on 14th and Alice Street, and a brother waved me down. He was like, "Hey sister, where's the rally?" And I was like, "What rally?" I literally had just driven into town, and it was like the rally for that young man they killed. What man? And so all this had happened, Oscar had been murdered, all this stuff had happened in Oakland. I'm one state over, sorry Dan, I'm one state over and had not heard a word about it. And I do communications for a living, and so I felt like that's where I could plug in the best. Also worked very closely with a committee that was primarily responsible for the majority of the demonstrations that hit the streets. So organizing that and figuring out the program, and lots and lots and lots of late night meetings. And then I think the third thing that is really important that people need to understand is that it was a coming together of people across racial, class, and political ideologies. That's what made it happen. But it was not a seamless coming together at all. There's people in here that are chuckling because they're remembering hours and hours and hours of political struggle, but principled political struggle, right? And I played a really key role in that, and one of the reasons why that's so important is because there are now alliances that have been formed between nationalists and anarchists and socialists and capitalists and, you know, the whole nine, and so we have continue to come together to do work in ways that would not have been possible before.
Wow. So that's a trip. So for the youth, just to know that what she's saying about that it just wasn't no automatic thing for all these different groups to come together. When you got all these different groups coming together, oh, it was a lot of like inner fighting, you know what I mean? So, and it's gonna happen like that. As you're an organizer, you'll find that. As you try to build coalition, these are some of the struggles that you will deal with as coming up as a young activist, as a young organizer. These are some of the challenges that you will face when you're bringing multiple different groups together. Nigel, I want to ask this question. I asked it down front, and this is real deep. And I know Dan Siegel is here too, because I know you still got a case. So if it's something that he can't ask, just feel free. You know, he may not be able to answer all the questions, and Dan will let us know. One of the things I wanted to ask, and I think that is important, like a lot of people may have this on. During when they stopped y'all on the platform, what was and all that was going on? What was going on in your head? What was your feelings? How did it make you feel?
At first, I was nervous. Like, I don't know, like, I was nervous at first. I didn't really know what was going to happen. So a lot of shit was going through my head.
So when they first pulled y'all out there, did you think it was gonna get that far? When did you start really getting really worried?
When they shut us down.
And so you was thinking they were gonna take you to jail, or?
I didn't know what was going to happen. I know something bad was going to happen. Though. I could feel it. I don't know what was going to happen though, by the way they was acting. Police was acting.
And how was it to see like all those BARTs that was stopped there during that time, and all this was happening in front of everybody? How was that feeling? What did that feel like?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess it was a good thing I was there because it got recorded and stuff. So. No.
And the last question: when you heard the shot, what went through your head at that time?
Take your time, Nigel.
Damn, that's really like. When I saw it, I was like, damn, they shot him. I didn't know what was gonna happen though.
And afterwards, when they took him in the ambulance, where did y'all go after that?
take us to jail.
They had a BART jail?
Yeah, BART jail. Yeah.
How long did they hold you guys?
I think I got like what, 8 in the morning. I think I got like 8 in the morning. So probably like, like 5 to 6 hours. So yeah,
Were all y'all together?
nah, we was all separate.
Y'all was separate?
Yeah,
Was it different like holding cells, or it was different jails that you guys were at?
nah, we was all in the same building. But I don't know exactly where they was at. They released us all at different times. So I don't know exactly where they was at.
Wow, that's deep. Minister, what is some? I know that you guys. I know that you led also like the black clergy. What is like 3 of the main, like some of the accomplishments that you feel that that you guys were able to get during it? Yourself and the clergy was accomplishments that you guys were able to do.
I think the group that I worked with, Raw Clergy, we had begun town hall meetings actually January 3rd, before we knew what happened to Oscar. That meeting brought in males, black and Latino, from Oakland, San Francisco, Stockton, Sacramento, and other communities in between that were suffering from police brutality. So we were looking to organize a way to respond not just to police brutality, but to failing schools, to failing economic systems, and we were organizing it on the base of the affliction that men suffer throughout these communities. On that morning, we didn't know what had happened to Oscar. The news was just coming to the television, and the video had not been released yet. The group that I participated in that challenged the district attorney on January 7th, we actually met on January the 5th to discuss what we understood to have happened. So I was able to call Councilperson Brooks, Supervisor Keith Carson, where there's an organization that's called the Black Elected Officials and Faith-Based Leaders of the East Bay. So that drew in support from political leaders and clergy leaders from across the East Bay. And when we met, about 20 of us, we reached out for the DA. That was actually on Tuesday morning. The funeral was on Wednesday.
That's right. That's right.
So we were meeting to find out what each group knew, who understood what happened. At this point, we're looking at news coverage and the first video footage. We are outraged. Jesse Brooks said, well, why don't we call the DA and ask him what's he going to do? So we called him. And when we called...
Meaning asking what he gonna do, like is he gonna charge the officer?
Exactly.
Okay.
At that point, nothing had been said from the district attorney's office. So we called him to ask, what are your intentions? Do you know about the case? What are you gonna do? His first response was, I don't need to tell you nothing. When he heard who was in the room, which was a number of prominent clergy members, a number of prominent black elected officials, then he began to respond. And his next response was, we'll meet with you and 2 or 3 people. There were 20 of us. Looked at 20 of us and said, he wants to meet with 3 people. And she already knew our answer. So before we could tell her, no, that's not gonna work, she put him back on the phone and said, no, that's not gonna work. We got 20 people you need to meet with. He said, well, I can't meet 20. We got off the phone and said, fine, we'll be at your office, to each other. We'll be at your office the next morning. So we chose to have a press conference that morning of the funeral, of that Wednesday morning. And after the press conference, it was our decision that we were gonna go up to his office and demand the meeting in person. So at that point, the audience grew from 20 to about 100 people. And when we got to his office, he became so frightened, that which is in the Alameda County Courthouse. They began calling the sheriffs and everybody else to come to contain and control the crowd. The interesting thing was he called Supervisor Keith Carson, who wasn't there with us because he was running the county budget hearings. He called them on an emergency note. There's 100 angry Negroes in my life. And we need somebody to come calm them down and ask them what they want. Well, when Supervisor Carson got off the elevator, he already told me that morning he couldn't be there because he had to be at the hearings for the budget. When they got off the elevator, I was surprised. What are you doing here? He said, well, the DA called me. And before he went to see the DA, he stopped. And he said, what do you want me to tell him? I said, well, you tell him we want to speak with him. So they went in, he came back out and said, okay, he's willing to meet with 7. That's what can fit into his office. At that point, we said, no, there's 100 people out here. The day before, there was 20, we said no. Today, there's 100. We're not sending 7, because when you start pulling black folk out of a crowd to see who speaks to the man in the big house, you have a problem with sellouts who sell the community short. So he met with the first 3. I wasn't in that meeting, or 2. He met with Supervisor Carson and Pastor J. Alfred Smith. The beauty of it was, when they asked me to come in, he asked Pastor Smith, who was an older man, who could be my father, easily. And spiritually in our city, he's very much there.
Is that Elm Temple Church, Pastor?
Yes.
Okay, so big in the political scene.
Big in the political scene, big in the spiritual scene. But when we got on the inside and the DA attempted to quash the issue, he looked at Pastor Smith, and Pastor Smith told him, talk to Brother Keith. Whatever Brother Keith says goes. So he submitted to a younger man's position, because it was our drive that brought us to that point in the ride. And at that point, he said to the DA, now it's all or nothing at all. He said, well, I'm not going out into that lobby speaking to them. And we told him, in essence, we can guarantee your safety. Now, we're telling the DA, let's put this in context, in the sheriff's department, that we can guarantee his safety. So we brought the whole crowd. He didn't have a space. I said, we'll meet you at Laney College. Oh, we can't do that. Then find an empty courtroom. We'll meet you there. And by God's grace, I don't know if he's here, Davey D and some others recorded that meeting. So it's YouTubeable. You can look at it. And in that meeting, we challenged him until he finally submitted that it was his intention to bring charges. We said, we need to investigate to bring charges. Then we told him, then you need to tell the public, because the public doesn't believe you. Why doesn't the public believe you? Because no DA has ever charged a cop in the history of the state. So there was no reason. So at that point, when we challenged him to make a press conference and state his position, it was then that he made the cardinal mistake. He thought he was talking to slaves. And he said to us, I'm not going to tell the public what I'm going to do. You do it. That's when Desley Brooks stepped in and slapped him with truth and said, you're a paid official of the county. If something goes wrong, meaning the community breaks out into a riot, it's on you. Because you could have assured the city what your intentions were and maybe have eased the passion of those who would come out to protest. He said, I'm not doing it, but it got hot that night. Woo! You know, and that night the mayor came out and other things. So it wasn't just clergy, but clergy was essential.
I know what I meant, mistake. It was the black elected officials.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah, black
combination.
That's right, in combination.
We started as a combination with black elected officials and clergy leaders, and immediately began to chime in the activists.
So did they charge him that right after that?
It took
a while.
It took about a week. But Mayor Dellums, the next day, after he came out that night, he held a press conference. He called me to his office in a quiet meeting, and he said, Minister, I want you to know I met with the DA, or I talked to him. And he has agreed that he will come to a press conference that I'm hosting to say to the world what our intentions are as a city in pursuing the matter of the murder of Oscar Grant. And I'm going to have the DA come to that press conference and say what his intentions are. That happened. Now, there were some that were angry over that involvement, but had that not occurred, that meeting had unbeknownst to the time, see it in pictures. The mayor's chief of staff, a Chinese brother, I lost his name, came out of San Francisco, used to work for the former mayor there, was sitting in the back corner of the meeting. Now, we were at the table dealing with the DA, but Barbara Lee's office was there, Keith Carson was there, Leslie Brooks was there, Assembly Member Sandra Swanson's office was there. So when the mayor made a demand, it really was a demand that was agreed to by the highest ranking black elected officials in the city of Oakland, in addition to some of the most prominent clergy members in the city of Oakland, in addition to the fact we took youth into that meeting. My children were in that meeting. And I look back on that, they were 12 years old, 16 years old, in a meeting that the DA was scared was going to end up in a brawl. We brought our children in there. So our children were able to watch their parents wrestle down the seats of authority, make a demand, and the demand be submitted to, so they will forever know that
That's
they
right.
fight adults who are
That's
fighting
right.
on their
That's right. That's right.